It can be so inspiring to hear the stories of the best in the world. Runners who do superhuman things, running at speeds most of us can only imagine. The only problem is that elite runners are not typically all that relatable to the rest of us. So when I had a request to interview real, everyday runners who are not professionals, I loved the idea. Because most of us are just normal people who run because it's our passion, not our job. We have other jobs and kids and mortgages to pay, and yet running is just as important to us as the pros. And I would argue that our running is just as inspiring. Welcome to The Planted Runner. I'm Coach Claire Bartholic, and my mission is to help you improve your running, your mindset, and your life with science-backed training and plant-based nutrition. Today, I'll be talking to one of my own athletes, Nicole Dalal. We'll go over her story of finding running in her mid-40s, how going from a stock internet plan, then to a custom plan, and then finally joining the PR team changed her running, and why getting help and finding community has been a lifesaver for her, even though she doesn't consider herself fast or all that experienced. This is a new kind of episode for me, and I'd love to hear what you think. It's a bit of a love letter to running and finding community, and it's made possible by the community we've built at the PR team. If this sounds like something that you and your running need, head over to theplantedrunner.com/group to learn more about it today. And of course, don't forget to stay tuned all the way to the end of the episode for another Mental Strength Minute. Fortify your mind in 60 seconds or less. And now, here's my conversation with Nicole Dalal. Welcome to The Planted Runner, Nicole.
Oh, thank you so much for having me, Claire.
Well, this is kind of a special episode because we had a request to do this. You are one of my athletes on the Planted Runner team, and people want to hear just from regular athletes. The elites are great. It's always fun to talk to the elites, but sometimes you just want to hear from some regular runner who is just doing their thing. So here you are, Nicole. I'm happy to have you here. So let's just get into your background with running. How and why did you start running?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, running has always been a passion of mine. Like in the back of my head, I've always wanted to run, but I was an athlete, a soccer athlete in college and, as a young girl. And I played soccer after college. And when the pandemic hit, we stopped playing and I needed something. I'm just a goal-driven person. I needed something to do. And I was like, let me try this running again. Even though I tried many, many, many times, I needed something obviously for my mental health too, because we were all stuck indoors. And so, for me, it was just like, kind of like, let's pick this up and let's see if I can run, if I can still, have that burning passion that was deep inside of me.
Mm-hmm. And so you rediscovered it.
I did. I got a treadmill during the pandemic and I pretty much just started just walking, I think like most runners do. I just started walking and then walk, run, and it kind of just progressed from there.
What do you love most about it?
The freedom. I mean, when you're out there running just miles and miles, and I'm a mom, I'm a C-suite executive, like no one's in my ear, no one's asking me for anything. It just gives me that freedom. It gives me that accomplishment. There's a sense of peace to running. I love long runs, but what I love the most is the community. The running community is so just amazing, no matter who you meet at a race, no matter, online or, even like our PR team, just everyone's so awesome.
Yeah. So when you started training with me, you had a pretty ambitious goal. Do you want to talk about that?
Sure. Yeah. I'll kind of talk through like my progression of running. So like I said, I started walking and then on the treadmill, there was this like learn to run. So I was like, oh, okay, this is it. I just want to run for 5 minutes straight. And I'll never forget the day that I finished that little series and it had at the end of the series, it was like, you're going to run for 30 minutes. And I thought, no way am I going to run for 30 minutes straight. And I'll never forget, Claire, it was in June of 2021 and I walked up the treadmill and cried my eyes out. Like I ran for 30 minutes. And so that was it. Like I never looked back. I had my 5K and then next thing you know, I was like, I'm going to do the Dopey challenge. And so I decided to sign up for Dopey. And it was crazy. And I as I was getting closer and closer, and after an injury, I I was like, I need help. I have to find someone to help. And that's how I found you. I heard you on another podcast and I was like, okay, this she can help me. I just need a plan. I'm not going to be able to do this on my own.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, what was the connection? So I'm just some person on a podcast. So what was the connection or what made you think this is the person for me?
Oh, yeah. I mean, there's a lot of similarities. I started running, I'm 45. I started running in my 40s. I have a daughter. I think we have daughters in the same age or children in the same age. And you're a mom and I'm a mom and you work and I work. Like, it was just kind of like, there was something you had said on that podcast that just completely resonated with me. And I was like, this is the person for me. Like she's been where I've been and she knows. And that's just kind of how we connected.
Yeah, definitely. So for those who don't know about Dopey, tell everybody what it is and why it's so ambitious.
Yeah, absolutely. So the Dopey Challenge is a challenge to run 4 days straight in Walt Disney World. So each day is a race. So on Thursday, it's a 5K. On Friday, it's a 10K. On Saturday, it's a half marathon. And then on Sunday, it's a full marathon. So not only was it my first marathon ever in my life, it was those 4 races, back to back to back. So you're ultimately running 48.6 miles in 4 days. And yeah, crazy. Going from a 10K, a 5K, a 10K and a half, and just taking on this challenge was, super, probably crazy, actually.
It is a little crazy. I think that's why they call it Dopey. Yes. They're like, you got to be dopey to do to do this. But you did great. I mean, tell everybody what the experience was like.
It's like nothing else. You're up at 2 a.m. You're loading on buses. You're starting your races between 4 and 5, just depending on the distance, because you're literally running through the park. So you have to get out of the way. Like, you have to be out of the park so the guests can come. And the energy, the music, everything was just so memorable and exciting. And the race itself, it kind of just goes because there's so many people around you, tens of thousands of people. And, the big focus for me was recovery, making sure every night I was back in my room by 5, recovering, using my tools and getting to bed as quick as I could.
Yeah. I mean, when you came to me and you're like, okay, I've run a 5K, a 10K, and now I'm going to do Dopey, I'm just like, oh boy, here we go, but I work with all kinds of runners, definitely. So I was like, okay, if you want to do this, let's get you ready. So when you joined the team, what was that like for you?
Yeah. So my progression with you was quite interesting. I had to go back and look. You gave me a marathon plan. And then I remember reaching back out to you and saying, can you keep working with me? Because the plan was fantastic, but I knew I needed you through the entire race. And then after that is when I joined actually the PR team, because I had such a fantastic experience. I felt so incredibly prepared for, that crazy event. I was like, oh, how do I work with Claire and, other people that are also doing, similar things? So joining the PR team has been a life changer, honestly. So.
Oh, awesome. Awesome. That's so great. Because, honestly, when I started it, I really wanted to find a way to reach more people because, I can only help people one-on-one, for so long. I'm just one person. And I was just like, I want to start a team, but what if no one shows up? What's going to happen? Right. And oh my God, the response and how it has worked out, I am over the moon. I love it so much. And it's so much fun to see you all interact with each other, which is really great. So I definitely love that. But, so you were talking about the marathon plan. So I make plans that are custom for everybody who wants one. So if you want to come to me and you just want a training plan with no coaching, you got it. But then there's other layers on top of that. So what was the difference between getting just a plan that you kind of had to DIY yourself versus having some support?
Yeah, that's a great question because, in my running journey, I did what I think every new runner does. We go out to the internet, we go to various websites, we're like, I want to run a 10K, and they give you these 4 or 6 week plans. And there's a big difference between like an internet plan, like a stock plan versus a coaching plan versus a team versus, And so the stock plan isn't like helping you to cut down on, get a PR, cut a minute off of time, cut 10 minutes. Like you have to have someone there to help you. And like that's, the difference between one of the very many differences is having the support of the coach and having, the trainings, the other trainings that we do inside of our plan. That's a big difference than just like a stock plan. And without having somebody to help you know your goal of running the Dopey Challenge, for example, you can't put 4 plans together, a 5K, 10K, half and marathon, and you'd be running for like a year and then never make it to the race. And so, it's so important that for me, that I had someone to help me and listen and realize I just want to make it through the race. Like, this is a crazy thing. And you understood that and you built my mileage and you weren't like, you must run faster and you must do this. Like, you totally got what I did. And you can't do that with a completely just, internet plan, for lack of better words.
Yeah, definitely. A lot of people say, I've heard the people say that, oh, I don't need a coach because I'm too slow. Or I don't need a coach because I just started, and that's really for advanced people. What do you say to that?
Oh my gosh. I say I was exactly there. I am still new to running. I am still too slow for some people, but I'm me. And, for me to get further in my running career, even though I don't get paid for running, because it is a career, it's a job. I mean, and the way I look at it.
It can be.
It's a very important part of my life. You have to have someone there with you. It doesn't matter, if you think you're slow. We all think we're slow. I don't know a runner who actually doesn't think that they're slow. But to work on speed goals and to work on strength training, which has been the biggest game changer for me here in 2023, for my 2023 goals, you have to have someone there with you to help you with that. To be successful, you have to have partnerships and you have to have community. So.
Yeah. And not just in running, in life.
True. Yes.
It's all a big metaphor, right?
That is very true.
Yeah. Let's talk about strength training. So were you doing any strength training before?
No. As a soccer athlete, we did, we did different kind of trainings. We did, but even when I left college and was just doing rec, I was doing minimal. But when I started running, in my mind, I was like, gotta be thin, can't have any weight, can't have any muscle. You see all these people on TV, and it was such a farce. Looking back, I wish I told you this. I wish I did all the strength training you told me to, because it has changed everything for me this year. And I mean, it just being stronger gives you a level of confidence, but it also gives you speed. I mean, it really has, again, changed me for this year. So.
Yeah. So speaking of this year, what are your goals moving forward?
Yeah. So I have, obviously if I'm doing Dopey, I have to come big. So 2023 for me was a race every month. I've noticed I'm very motivated by having something to look forward to. So a race, a challenge, or whatever. So I have a race every month. They're 10Ks. I have a half next weekend. But my big race is Chicago. So very lucky to have got into Chicago here in October. And so I'm considering that my first real marathon, even though I technically ran one.
Yes. Well, it'll be your first marathon that you're not racing the 3 days prior.
Right, exactly.
And you'll have proper training to do it as fast as you can or as strong as you can.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
What kind of lessons have you been learning that really kind of have helped move you forward in your running journey?
Yeah, I mean, obviously the big one was strength training. The just putting the two together, running and then strength training and then rest days, and just really appreciating recovery. I got injured, actually very new into my career. I played soccer for 30 plus years, never did anything. And as soon as I start running, I tore my meniscus in my knee. Mm-hmm. So it was humbling, to realize just how much I missed it, but also how important recovery and strength training is to keep me injury free. And I say the other big thing is fueling. I think that's also a mystery for new runners. I'm still learning. I've been running for 2 years now, and it's the common things that you tell us, coach. It's eat that bagel before you go on your long run, and then it's like, make sure you're hydrating and eating and, taking your gels and goos. And that's an experiment in itself. And, things that I think as runners, we just have to trial and error and continue to learn.
Yeah, absolutely. I wish I could tell people, okay, this is exactly what you should eat. These are the exact brands that you are going to do great with. None of them are going to hurt your stomach. And this is the exact thing you should eat afterward. I wish I could say that, but it's amazing how different people are. Like some people have stomachs of steel and they can just eat anything and they're, chewing sandwiches going down the road. And then like other people are like so sensitive and they can barely tolerate anything. So it really is trial and error for everyone.
Yeah, completely agree. And I have celiac, so I'm gluten-free. So I'm already like GI issue, aware. So, but it's been, there's things out there. I think that's the cool thing about, running. There's options for everybody. Like you said, you just have to try,
Yeah, for sure. So are you plant-based? I'm the planted runner. So are you plant-based?
I am not. I am not a complete carnivore either. So I feel like I have a pretty good mix. And another reason why I was super interested in working with you is I realized I don't have as many plants in my life. I do now that I've read your fabulous book. I have, added a lot more plant, or at least I think about it more as plant-based days. That's kind of what my focus has been. And it, again, growing up as an athlete, it was all animal protein. Like that's what got you through. That's what, and so having working with someone that's been plant-based just gives you that comfort and knowledge that, yeah, you can do all of this, with plants. So.
Yeah, and that's so great. I'm glad that you said that because I've said this before. I'm not an evangelist. I don't want to try to change people's eating habits if they don't want to. I'm not here to sell the plant-based diet. I'm here to support people who want to be plant-based and people who are plant curious. But I have no judgment. If you're eating the way you are happy eating and your body's happy eating, go for it, do it. But I just kind of wanted that message to come across because some people think plant-based people are just these crazy vegans, that are trying to take down the world. And I am not that way at all.
Very true. Yeah, I don't think it ever comes up. You always ask the team, can I give you recipes or more things? You've never said oh, all you animal eaters, get out of here.
Yeah, no. So, where do you think that you're going to be going with your running in the future? I know you have Chicago, but overall, long term, throughout your life, what do you want running to bring to you? I want to tell you about a unique opportunity for you to get stronger, faster, and stay motivated to hit all your running and nutrition goals this year, and that is to join the PR team. I started it last fall, and I have to tell you, it's even better than I imagined. Each member of the team gets a custom training plan made by me for you based on your unique fitness, goals, and lifestyle. Everything you need to crush your running dreams is included, such as strength training, recovery, and even cross training if you want it. I include weekly mental strength training as well as tips and nutrition guides. But here's where it gets really cool. The group has its own page in the app where we share workouts, ask training questions, and get feedback from me and the other teammates. And each week I create an exclusive private podcast just for the team based on the questions I get and what I see in their training each week. And I usually end up sharing behind the scenes and exclusive sneak peeks with the team that I don't share anywhere else. So instead of joining a Facebook group or sitting through another Zoom call, you get to listen to tailored advice on the run, and you don't have to do all of this alone. So if you are ready to take your running to the next level and join an amazing team of runners, head to theplantedrunner.com/group and join us today. It's more affordable than you think, and I can't wait to have you.
Running is 100% part of my life now. It is in my schedule. It is, it makes me feel good, after I run and feel accomplished after a race. I have hefty goals. I would love to run the 6 majors. That would be a fantastic goal. I'd love to run in every state, some mileage, not necessarily a marathon, but, I'd love to run in every state. But my long-term goal is to be that 94-year-old woman on the podium that's getting up there. And even if it took me an hour to run a 5K, like I just want to be able to run forever. It's been just such a blessing, in my life. So
I love that. Yeah, I love that. We actually do have somebody on the team, Yolanta, who is running a half marathon in every state. So we've got all sorts of people that have crazy big goals, and it's so fun to hear everybody's. So let's talk about some of your habits and your routines, because I think sometimes, especially when we're busy moms, we have busy jobs. It's hard to fit it all in. I mean, the schedule obviously helps, but how do you make sure that you don't miss a day?
Yeah, great question. That has been the biggest learn for me, because going from running 30 minutes even to an hour a day, as your mileage is going up, the weekend was always manageable. Like for me, I run before work, before I take my daughter to school. So I am definitely 100% morning runner. All my motivation is in the morning, and then it wanes as the day goes on. So I have been very diligent about just my timing. So if I have to be up at 4:30 or 5 to get my run in that day, that has been, kind of the biggest challenge for, if you will. The second part of that is then my strength training. And so I find myself doing a lot of backwards math at night to go, okay, I got to run for an hour, then 15 minutes of workout. What time do I need to get up? What time do I have to eat my graham crackers before I start running? And, but the point is, I've made it very important in my schedule. Like it has to be. Like if you want to progress, or for me, if I want to progress, I can't just get out there and run a marathon tomorrow. I have to train. And so working in those training times in the morning has been, the way for me, the way that has worked for me.
So it just becomes like brushing your teeth. Yeah. You just get up and you do it, and you don't have to think about it.
Yeah, exactly. Now I have a treadmill. I'm actually a big TM runner, as you know, and doesn't bother me. And I wish to be outside a lot, but the fact that I've got work and kiddos, the treadmill works for me on most of my weekdays. And so it's right there. It's all ready to go. And so that's also just been a help, for me to stay closer to home than running and, coming back. So,
yeah. As you know, I'm a big fan of the treadmill. I tell everybody that it is a tool. And if you have the opportunity to use it, consider yourself lucky. And, yes, it can be boring. Yes, it can be. I think it was originally designed as a torture device.
Yes, it was for prison.
Yeah. But if you can get to the point mentally where you're past that, it can actually be amazing. Yeah, I'm convinced.
I completely agree. I love talking to the PR team and those who are road runners and versus TM runners. And I'm like, yeah, I just kick back and put my Netflix on and go. And, on the speed days, it's trickier, of course. But, on your shakeout days and things like that, it's actually pretty cathartic for me just to keep rolling.
Yeah, for sure. So, okay, so you do your strength training right after your run. How much of a time commitment is that for you? Because that's the next little kind of friction point that people have. They say, oh, I only have enough time to run. I don't have enough time to do the strength training.
Yeah, it's exactly where I was last year. I was like, just get through your run. You don't have the time. Honestly, you do an outstanding job. It's like 10 to 15 minutes, 25 minutes on the weekend, and 10 to 15 during the week. So if I calculate out my hour-long run, it's an hour 10. So it's quite manageable if you have your weights and everything, you're ready to go. But I don't see it like I did last year, like, oh, I just don't have time. I just see it now as part of my routine. Like I'm doing this and then I'm doing that. So.
Isn't that interesting that it's like a little mind shift?
Yeah.
It's the same training maybe that you were doing before, but you just have a mind shift around it, and it's all how you perceive it has changed, right?
Yeah, 100%. It is. It literally is the mind shift. You said that exactly right. It's not new. It's just different. You know what I mean? So yeah.
Yeah. Well, speaking of the mind, I also include mental strength with my athletes. So every week there is some kind of video, some kind of lesson that is meant to help your running. It is much like the Mental Strength Minute that I do at the end of this show every day. So can you talk about that? Have there been any lessons that have really stuck with you that you've learned?
Yeah, actually, I love those. I'm kind of I listen to them all at once because you'll like sprinkle them in. So I kind of just ramp them all up on my rest day, on recovery day on Sunday, and just listen to them all. There's so many. The thumb tapping one, I actually use that when I have long runs. The black box. The negative self-talk, that has to be a big one, especially for us new runners. I'll find myself in a run, like, Nicole, you can do it, you've got this, like, talking to myself again, all coming, things that seem obvious in hindsight, but hearing the way you say it in your mental strength minute just makes such sense. And it's a minute, like, it's just you pack so much good content in 1 minute. So I love those too, and that's a big part of running. I would argue that the running is easy, it's your mind that's hard.
Definitely. I talk to a lot of runners, when I'm talking to them on the phone, and I say, what do you struggle with? Or when you're filling out the forms to work with me, that's the thing I ask. What do you struggle with mentally? And there are some runners that are like, nope, I'm good. I'm positive all the time. And I'm like, who are you people?
Right. No,
because I'm not like that at all.
No,
I know.
Oh my gosh. I'll have to talk myself through so many long runs, like, because even though I'm not racing, that you can just say, I'm good, and you can just turn around and walk back. I mean, arguably, but there's so much to the mental strength, like you said, to get through each one of those and to feel like you accomplished it. But yeah, for those who are just like, cool, yeah, I'm positive. I mean, sure, great, but I don't know.
Yes. Well, I mean, and I've said this before, that my negative voice is actually a very positive voice. It's a very sweet, kind voice that says, honey, you can slow down. You're fine. Everybody loves you. Your family loves you. Just slow down. Just stop.
Yeah, I bet you. Mine's probably similar to you now that you say that.
Yeah. And it's like, you got to tell that one to get in the back of the bus,
Right. Exactly. It is like a little angel and devil on your shoulder, like, yeah, just quit. And then the other ones, to your point, has a sweet little voice like, no one's going to judge you if you just stop right now. No one sees, but you do,
Yeah. So I'd love to get into the topic of, we're in our 40s and here we are, like, racing like we're athletes, like we're kids, like here we are doing this thing, which ultimately doesn't mean anything if you really think about it. We're running from one point to another and getting a little medal that we can hang on our wall, right? It's sort of silly when you think about it, but how much meaning does it bring to you?
Oh my gosh, it's funny you say that, because every medal that's behind me, it means something, and every medal is an accomplishment, but it's also a place. It's also like, I'll never forget the first out of state race. Like, I'll never forget the first 10K, the first half. There's just so much to the accomplishment, to the medal. Sure, yeah, it is kind of silly, and some of them are really wheels off looking, but it's like you cross that finish line, and there's just so many people there cheering, and again, I'll go back to the community. The running community is so fantastic. But you're right, no one's paying me. Like, no one's buying my Morton gels for me, unfortunately. Like, and so I have to, this is like something that's super meaningful to me. And again, it's a different goal. We have work goals. We have, goals we want to watch our children, grow and become. And that's another big part. I have a daughter who, sees me, running, sees me bring home the medals. And it means a lot to her. I could tell, like, she cheers me on every step of the way. And that's also, I mean, as a mom, that's meaningful too, to have, to be able to be like, yeah, I'm over here in my 40s running for some dopey looking medal, but here I am, actually doing it. And so,
yeah. Does she ask you if you win the race?
All the time, all at the time. Or how long is it? Like, she can't conceptualize miles, which I think is very common if you're not a runner too. Sometimes I'm like, it's like me driving from here to there, here to Chick-fil-A,
Yes. So. Yeah, my kids would always be like, did you win? Did you win? And
most of the time I did not win.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, no, we don't.
Yeah.
I don't ever think I'll win a race unless I'm the only one.
Yeah. That was what I was about to ask you next was, what kind of example are you setting for your kids? Like when you go out for a run or when you come back from a sweaty run and your kids are, Saturday morning cartoons or whatever they're doing, and moms just come back from a run, like what do they see?
Yeah, great question. I think first you have to get over mom guilt, especially as you start upping your miles and you're out of the house for 2 to 3 hours. And for her, she sees that I'm happy. She sees that I'm doing something. She sees that I'm in a good place. And, and she is all in. When I leave early for runs, she tries to get up and, even say goodbye because she knows what she knows what it means to me. She knows it means, mom is in a really good space and she's, doing something for her. I mean, I think a lot of kids realize, moms are, all in when we come to our kiddos. And I think they really respect that we try to find time, for ourselves as well. And as much as, they might be like, I haven't eaten and you were gone for 3 hours. Like, but I think deep down, I know she's super happy that I can accomplish these things.
Definitely. And that's ultimately our job, is not to make our kids happy, but it is to show an example of the people that we want them to become. We want our children to be able to go out for a run or do something for themselves. And the only way they're going to learn that is if they watch us.
Yeah. Completely.
Do the same thing.
Completely agree. I have not talked her into racing yet. She still looks, because she's a drama kid, so she loves theater and sports aren't her thing. And that's okay. Like, she's unbelievably good, but I haven't convinced her to run with me yet. So we'll see. Maybe one day.
Yeah. How old is she?
She's 12. She's 12.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Maybe just down the street and back?
Yeah, maybe. I don't know. She has zero desire. I'm like, how about let's walk on the treadmill? She's like, I'm good. I'm like, okay.
Yeah, no thanks. Yeah, bye-bye.
Bye-bye, exactly. I'm going to go practice singing.
Yeah. Well, I think that's a really sweet way to kind of wrap this up, Nicole. But if people who are listening to this want to follow your journey, where can they find you?
Yeah, absolutely. Especially if you want to go see my dopey costumes, I do have an Instagram, and it's Nikki D Runs, NIKKID Runs. And some of my race stuff is out there. Some of my daughter's stuff is out there. So yeah, I'd love to connect with people for sure.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much, Nicole, for being on the show. I really loved the suggestion to have just some of my athletes come talk about what it's like, because, we're all doing the same thing. And it's really great to have just regular runners who are doing the thing just come on and talk. So I hope to make this more of a regular thing for sure.
Appreciate it. Loved it. Really appreciate you and the PR team. Fantastic. Can't say enough good things about the crew.
Thank you so much, Nicole.
Thank you.
And now it's time for the Mental Strength Minute. Fortify your mind in 60 seconds or less. Today's topic is divide and conquer. When you're at the starting line of a race or a long workout, if you think about how long you have to go, it can quickly become overwhelming. Or when you're in the middle of a tough long run and all you want to do is quit, it can be tempting to just give up and stop. A way to make the distance more manageable is to mentally divide the run into pieces so small that they don't seem so scary. So instead of thinking of all 26.2 miles of the marathon, just think about 1 mile at a time. On a tough run in your neighborhood, just try to get to the next mailbox or the next telephone pole. Give yourself permission to reevaluate at each milestone, and often you'll find that you can keep going to the next one over and over and over again until you've conquered the entire run. Thank you for listening to The Planted Runner or watching it on YouTube. Don't forget that you can win a copy of my book for leaving an Apple Podcast review, so make sure to write yours right after your run today. Reviews like these are the #1 way to boost this show's reach, and it's a great way to tell me what you'd like to hear next, because I read every single one. Have a great run today.